guys, this is Maria. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I will be going through our very extensive book collection. I'm not going to share all of the books with you, but I will group them by age from infancy all the way to preschool age and share with you what skills they develop, how you can enhance your child's speech development, physical development, all through books. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I have two children. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I practice Montessori at home for over 3 years. Both my kids go to Montessori school, and I also work in the industry of childhood development and education, so I have access to a lot of great resources. And if that's the kind of content you're looking for, make sure to click that subscribe button. And now let's do it. At the very beginning, your child actually does not distinguish colors yet, but the way to get them interested in the very beginning is this black and white books. I started showing those to Justin when he was about 3 months old. And what I would do, I would just put it in front of him and I would explain like face, eyes, nose. You're not expecting your child to repeat anything at that age. It's them just looking at the pictures, and it helps their eyes to focus. So that's purely development of the eye coordination versus just actual literacy. As your children get older, certain sounds that they first develop are B, P, and M. And that's why doing animal sounds are so important and so useful. And some of the books you might want to introduce with your children are simple picture books. And I will show those later in my video as well because they're great for other skills. Again, well before one, going through books like this by Matthew Van Fleet. Matthew Van Fleet is one of my favorite books. They're just so pretty and nice. But what you can do with your child, you can say ba, ba, and you accentuate on b, on the sound b. When you do the cow, it's moo, moo. You can describe everything that is on the page here as well, but what you're trying to first do is get your child to imitate the sounds they're capable of imitating. And then another thing, as your child get older, such books like this one that actually make the sound are also great. Now, one of the things with young children, try to stick to picture books. By picture books, I mean the books that have actual photographic images versus any kind of drawings, because they tend to gravitate to actual pictures more than they would to any kind of drawing that you show them. And this book is a great book. I use it with both of my children. They're called somewhat of a picture encyclopedia. Because it's only a picture and you can go through and show them familiar objects. You can also bring the object with you while you're reading the book and show them and touch them. And again, try to focus in the very beginning. It's B, P, and M. Later it is T, D, and N. And typically what you will notice, especially if it's not your first child, that children don't typically move on to the next more complex sounds until they have those more simple ones down. I'm very interested in faces. They actually did a study that first thing that they are able to recognize is the face, and it's a reptilian brain. You need to know the face of your caregiver. So doing the pictures with baby faces is great, where they can look, lift the flap. And this book is also great when you get to the point of toddlerhood, like 18 months and up, when they start feeling all those emotions and tantrums coming. They might not have the vocabulary to express themselves yet, so using a book with faces of babies and labeling the feelings will help you actually avoid a lot of very difficult situations. But on that a little later as well. One of the things that you might want your child to know, one of the first things, usually when we start talking to them, we harp so much on like ball, car, all the adjectives. But what you need to work with your child on is actually also verbs of action. For example, play, read, walk, sit. Things that they can put the nouns with. Or as an example, you can give them the sounds and say car beep beep. And they will probably start with a beep beep, but then they will add up so they can start building more complex sentences. The other things that you might want, and verbs of action, very important, as I mentioned. Now, moving on, this is my other series of books. I've shared them in many of my videos from about 3 years ago, probably because that's when I first bought them. And these are picture books with like body parts, where you can look again, you know, looking at the pictures of the faces. That was so helpful for me to teach my daughter all of her, you know, nose, eyes, and it goes through everything. And then you can go and expand. Try expanding when you read to your children all those picture books and asking them questions. Is the elephant has a long nose or short nose? Trying to expand their vocabulary again, building on those adjectives. My son spent countless hours, you know, probably in his life looking at these books by Discovery Kids. They're great because you can match up. There is a little bit wording here that you can read and get some information. It has pictures, and children typically are really drawn to animals and photographic images, and they make pretty realistic sounds. So I have the whole series of these books. I've, you know, shared it in my videos, but I'm just going to show you a few. They have trucks, they have anything that your child might desire. A little bit in age closer to 2, when your child is already starting to string the sentences, to aid in it, a great way is to have rhyming books. Both my children love Dinosaurs, and this one is also a tactile book, so they have something to touch. Having more entertaining books, and I will actually touch upon this at this end of this video if your child is not interested in reading what to do, so make sure to watch till the very end. But having a bit of a tactile books like this will interest them and get that initial start. But why this book is great is the rhyming, because when they start stringing those words, the rhyming stimulates the memory, it helps them with verbalizing and expands their vocabulary. So what I would do with my children when I would read this book, the Dinosaurs stands out great. So it's actually good for letter recognition as well. And it's exactly the same on every single page. What I would do, you must never touch A. And by our 3rd time reading the book, my 2-year-old, back then, probably about 18 months old, would say, "Dinosaur," with spines along its back. Just say goodbye and walk on by. It might think you are snack. So you're giving them the opportunity to fill in. There is another great book that we're loving right now that is a little more complex than that one. So Justin is right now 2.5. This is Curious George, Happy Halloween. Halloween is around. That's when I'm filming this video. So it's a great way to, especially on the words that you know that they know, and the more you read those books, they start memorizing them and offer their own. I actually just mentioned it in one of my videos that I recently filmed. So rhyming books are so important for children up on from toddler up until preschool age, because it helps them to expand vocabulary and memory. When it comes to story time books, I enjoy the books, and it depends on the preferences of the child. But this Quiet Bunny book has been great because it gives you, especially if your child is not as verbal yet, all the sounds of the forest, and the child, at least if they're not able to provide a word for you, but you can say, hum like a hummingbird, because a lot of the times, especially with children, if they do have a little bit of a delay in speaking, it's delay with also imitating the words. So giving them something that they can imitate so they can get that start, they can move on to the next. So this book has been really good. Now moving on. Well, books are great not only for speech development and other great skills, but I want to share this book with you, Good Night Yoga. Amazing book, amazing because my children love it. Very frequently they drag it on their own and they start doing it, but it's just goes through yoga poses, and it has little wording around it. But what it does, it also helps your child visually mimic with that body whatever pose that is on the picture. I actually have another yoga book which is very similar to this one, Yoga Bug, and they love that one equally as well. I just can't physically go through all of our books because we honestly have probably about 100 kids books in our collection. So it goes all through all the poses, and we started doing it as a nighttime routine with my daughter when she was 2, and to help settle down. She was having like a sleep regression issues and stuff, and also we do that to like with breathing techniques, and now they just love doing it. My son just does it because he enjoys being active and mimicking. Mimicking is a very important milestone in preschool age. So another great thing to have, in my personal opinion, is the tiny little books like this one, or I have this one from Disney. I have another one from Encyclopedia Britannica, I believe, and it had small books like this one. But why are they great? Well, they're small enough for the little hands to hold, and I just have those. I used to have them when I was potty training, right by the potty, because kids would just sit on the potty and look through it. But what I'm using it right now with my preschooler, who is 4.5, is reading. And the reason I'm using it, first of all, it's a small book, right? And then it has very few words on each page, and they're in a very good type. So it's easy for her to visually see it. And it's not like the same object that they describe, so she can't just guess what it is. So for example, if I go through my mommy feeds me, and then like next one, I'd be like, what letter is that? And she'd say, and then Y. I'm like, ooh, what? My. So we actually use those for beginning reading with her at this point in life. And again, because she loved those books ever since, we've had them since she was 2, and you know, both my children love those little books. This is a very similar concept with little tiny books. And sometimes what I do with this ones, for example, I just cover the picture and be like, all right, let's read what is on inside there. Well, so here's one thing I've always done with my children, is I've always read them a more complex books. Like, so my 2-year-old, I read Curious George books, and you know, it's not like 1-2 sentence kind of pages. It has some information, and that helps them to concentrate and, you know, have more focus and concentration. And Justin really likes Curious George. He loves monkeys, he loves animals, so those books are really great. With my daughter, I did the same. I just had a box that she was interested in at that age. And in preschool age, once you get to rhyming again, there's this series of books that I shared probably about a year ago. That's when the first time I bought it. Iggy Pack, Rosie Riviere, Eat a Twist, and there is a new one that came out. We didn't buy it yet, and I want to buy it. But they are great because they are all rhyming books. I mean, I'm not going to talk about how great the storyline yet. For Scarlett, she is, I'm doing the same with her. It's just a little bit more difficult because you'll see here some of the pages, you know, are quite complex. And these books will be probably great for you up until the age of 6 or 7. Like, for example, when I started reading Scarlett Fancy Nancy books, she was only 2 years old, and now she's 4, and I think we are rereading them, and she understands them in a different way that she did when she was 2. But here is, the storylines are great, and it's rhyming books, and I really, really love them. They're great for preschool age. Your younger toddlers will not get it yet. I would say 3.5 and up. Alright guys, so now how to get your child interested in reading if you have a toddler that it has no interest to sit and listen to the books and stuff. So there will be a few suggestions, and there could be a few things that are going on. Number one, your child might be getting too much screen time, and I am screen-free in our household, so my kids didn't really have any option except, you know, books to be interested in. But one of the things is that screens are extremely addictive, and it sends this, you know, information to pleasurable centers of their brain. Oh, I like swiping more than I like doing anything else. It's biology. We as an adult are exactly the same. It truly is an addiction. So try to limit your child's screen time to a certain amount of times, and then maybe in the mornings when they wake up and you do the snuggles, instead of turning on a cartoon, sit down with a book and read a book if you have time to do it. If it's already part of your routine, try replacing the moments that you and your child are bond with the screen, or replace it with a book. Find those calm moments when it's snuggle time, when books laying all around the house. I've actually filmed a video on how to encourage independent play, so I'll link it here and maybe on the screen as well. It goes through how I set up different areas in our house where everything is in reach for the children and they can just look at it. So having the box, as an example, like this one here, or Book of Bugs. This is all National Geographic Kids. It has lots of pictures that your child can flip through depending on their interests. I have different animals. I have wild, where the pictures move. So make it available to them to explore on their own, so it's always in their reach. They don't have to wait for you to offer it. And again, if you eliminate some of the screen time for them, they will be more likely to flip through those books, and that will spark that interest. Another thing, at first, when you're first starting to spark that interest, try the books with flaps where you can have to look and find. Also, if they have some textures, like that dinosaur book that I showed earlier, which I can't find for whatever reason. So that dinosaur that I showed earlier was introduce some of the small books that they can flip through, maybe again on the potty or at the quiet time, have it by their PlayStation, wherever they have it, so they have an opportunity to flip through them and get. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give me a like, subscribe to my channel for more educational content and mom life content. I share those videos quite frequently, and I hope to see you soon.